Thank you so much for that prompt. My sister in service is telling me I'm just talking my butt off and y'all can't even hear me. Anyway, hi, I'm Michelle Gardner-Ince, aka GI. So awesome to be here with you for this amazing salute to our Father's service. We saluted him before we saluted the flag, and we've assembled some amazing women, each just a force in their own right. But before we get started, what I want to do is to just tell you kind of like, how did this come about, right? So, one of the things that, stories that's always amazing is how did you come into the service? I think Lisa and I are probably the most senior amongst the group here. But, what I know is how I came into the service wasn't because my father encouraged me, but it was more about that I just watched him and saw him, right? I saw what he did, I saw who he was. And so, we're on the back end of Father's Day, we're on the back end of Women Veterans Day. And I want to shout out Rodney Miner of Veterans in Transition, who approached me with this idea. We were going to do it in person, but then guess what? We couldn't bring it all together. And I said, we're pressing forward because I live by a philosophy: start ugly, get pretty. And let me tell you, I'm so excited that we're just forging ahead because this is an idea. This is an opportunity for us to salute our dads that we just could not pass up. So with that, excuse me, I'm going to allow each of these ladies to roll call and introduce themselves. I'm going to go like I have on the screen, and I'm going to ask them to, introduce themselves, tell their service, their branch of service, their father's name, branch of service, and service era, what they're currently doing, what their current role is, and what their father taught them. So first, let's start with Lisa. Lisa, go ahead, tell us. Welcome, lady. So glad you're with us.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be nice to be one of the oldest in the room. Thanks for pointing that out too, by the way.
I think I might be older, but it's okay.
So I'm Lisa Ducharme, retired Air Force veteran. I retired after 20 years. My dad, Ronald Akins, is a retired Air Force Vietnam veteran, and he retired after 30 years. And my current role is founder and executive director of the Massachusetts Veterans Chamber of Commerce. And I think one of the things, when I was thinking about all the wonderful things my dad taught me, he was always a pay it forward kind of man. So he taught me that true leadership is not measured by recognition, but by the lives you change quietly. So it's do the things behind the scenes, because really that's what true leadership is about.
Awesome. True leadership is all about not just being seen, but all the great things that happen behind that aren't seen really make what is seen really the indication of excellence. So thank you. Next, Rochelle.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rochelle Hemingway. I'm affectionately called the Slay Queen. My branch of service that I served in was the United States Air Force, and I served for 30 years. My father, Fred Douglas King, also served in the United States Air Force, and he served for 23 years. And he also served in the Vietnam War. He served twice during that time period. And my current role right now is the CEO and founder of Slay to Success. So my father taught me a lot. And it wasn't until later on in life that you really start to notice that there were things that were in alignment that you do now that you've grown a little bit older. And there were three specific things. One was trust God. So before he passed away, he was brought in as a deacon of the church that we were raised in, after he retired, and really prayed over us for so many different reasons. So that was the one principle. The next was to put your best foot forward, to never leave things undone. Always make sure that they're tied up, buttoned up, because people notice that. And so the end result is just really operating in excellence. And then lastly, he really wanted to pursue opportunities. He really thought that that was one of the greatest gifts that you could have, is to have opportunity. So his message to me all the time was just to say yes. If it's not going to kill you or, make you injured or anything like that, just say yes, because you never know what's to become of it. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Faith, excellence. I love that. Resilience. And thank you, Jasmine says she's here with us by text, but not video due to a flight delay. We miss you, Jasmine, but I'm so glad that you're here. Next, let's see here. We're going to Olivia. Olivia, hi, welcome.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I am retired Lieutenant Colonel Olivia Nunn. I served for 20 years in the best branch and the oldest branch, the United States Army, who we just celebrated our 250th birthday the other day. So go Army. And my father actually served in the United States Army as well, and his name is Devin McNeilis. And he served right after the Vietnam era. So he joined after Vietnam was over, and he served when I was a kid. And he's the reason why we're here and why we're discussing and why I decided to go into the Army. Currently, I'm the CEO and founder of Olivia Nunn Communications. It's a branding, communications, event consulting company. And the legacy that my dad left with me that I carried throughout my time in service, and it's still applicable in every aspect of my life, not only as being a business leader and a mom, is that my father taught me to always lead with integrity, to never quit, and to always put your soldiers first. And I think the part that sticks out to me the most is never quitting and to always put people first. And those two things have been such cornerstone pieces for me in everything that I have tried to work through or try to accomplish, not only in my career in the Army, but also in my post-career Army life in the last 3.5 years.
Awesome. Excellence and people. It's very similar to what my dad taught me, and I'll wait my turn because we're going to have Larissa go next. You're muted.
Sorry. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting and hosting this, Shell. It's a great honor. Again, my name is Larissa Martinez. I served in the United States Air Force. I did not retire. However, I served 10 years proudly and was honorably discharged. My father also was in the Army and Marines, and he served in the Vietnam era. And one thing that he would always tell me is mi linda mija, which means my beautiful daughter. Never let anyone tell you what you can and can't do. And realizing that now that I am a founder and executive director of a nonprofit called Circle of Arms, I realize that there are things that people are going to say that I can do, but that I may not want to be a part of or may not want to do. And then there's going to be times where people are going to tell me that I can't do that. And I'm going to do it even though they're telling me that I can't. And I think that's something that I hold on to each day, that I am in a leadership, but also as a family, and that I have my own family. And I just take and carry with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, family, resilience. I call it success is the greatest revenge. It's my favorite kind of revenge, actually. So, hi, I am Michelle Gardner-Ince, U.S. Air Force. Um, I spent 27 years in the world's greatest Air Force. My father is Colonel Arthur R. Gardner, U.S. Army, one of the first Black Army Corps of Engineer officers. He served in Vietnam, several Bronze Stars. I am currently the director of the Women Veteran-Owned Small Business Initiative. I also have a nonprofit called Above, about the business of veteran entrepreneurs, where I do various speaking and educational events. The legacy, the thing that my father taught me is leave deep footprints. They should know that you were there. The other thing that he taught me is he said, excellence is not what we do, but it is who we are. And so I'd be remiss if I did not mention my mother, Willie M. Hall, because she was a servant leader and also Army Wife of the Year for 1973 and runner-up for Military Wife of the Year for 1973. Hi, Mom. So next, now that we've kind of talked about, introduced ourselves, done our military roll call, I want to roll into, I asked each of you, excuse me. Before I go, we were supposed to be joined by Jasmine Rush, and she had a flight delay, so she was not able to join us, but she is on text, and she is U.S. Navy. I do know that her father was, I think, U.S. Army. I'm going to say, I think I got that right. And I don't know what era he was in, but from the photos, it looks like he might have been in Vietnam as well. So if you want to correct me in the chat, Jasmine, I'll put it up on the screen. But we do miss you, and I'm glad that you're able to join us online. Gotta love that internet on the plane. So with that, I'm going to exit the solo layout, and I'm now going to go to letting each one of these amazing ladies, sorry, I've got some tickle in my throat. One of these amazing ladies begin with a tribute to their father. I'm going to start with Lisa first, and let me get you queued up here, Lisa. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All righty. First, if you'll kind of say your theme of what you're going to be, the theme around what you're going to celebrate your father around, and then let's go.
So my theme that I picked was what she carries forward today in her personal and professional mission. And I think that because when I think about what I carry forward, both personally and professionally, I think about my dad's voice. Everything about me and my dad are so similar. My dad had this grounding way. He was just calm voice and common sense. There were 4 girls, and I was the only daddy's girl. And it was just, we had this special relationship. One of the things he said to me early in my career was, when God tells you to walk, sometimes the devil will tempt you with something easier, like a limo. But trust me, keep walking. The right path may be harder, but it always leads you where you're meant to be. I thought about that throughout my life, and every time I wanted to take the shortcut, which, let me tell you, in some of my jobs was a lot. But in the end, I didn't take the shortcuts, because that would always pop into my head. And I carried that with me, and I've carried it through every chapter of my life. I still remember my first assignment, which was back in 1986. And it was just a terrible beginning to a career. The advantage is I was a military brat, but I was excited. I was ready to move. I was ready to serve. And my boss at the time, I was at Clark Air Base in the Philippines, and my boss at the time did not see my potential. It was go get me a regulation, go run an errand. That was not something I was used to. I was used to being put in jobs of responsibility. I was doing everything except what he trained me for. So I went through my chain of command. And of course, they reference the part of your contract that says you're going to do what you were told to do, kind of thing. And I called Dad. I was so frustrated. And he said, Lisa, document everything, stay professional, keep walking forward, and then go to your training manager. And that's exactly what I did. I learned really good documentation during that time. And I followed that process. And when I left, he managed to not get he didn't get a decoration, but I did, which tells you that all the advice Dad gave me worked beautifully. Over the years, when someone went up the chain of command wasn't listening to what I was saying, I would call my dad and I would complain and I would say, Dad, this is what he said. This is what she said. This is what really should be happening. And he'd sit down and we'd talk about it. And then I would turn around and I'd go back and I'd say, my father, retired Chief Master Sergeant, who was a Vietnam veteran, said, and I always got my point across. In fact, even prior to his death last year, I was still using that statement to get people to listen to me. So it works. It also helped me during my background. My background in the Air was casualty. So I was at the Pentagon on 9/11, and I found myself in a role which at that moment was extremely stressful. But I just kept thinking of my dad saying, keep moving. Don't worry about it. Do the things you need to do. And so I was able to do what I needed to do that day. I'm a decoration expert as well. So I wrote the decoration guide. I also wrote the guide on how we were going to do identification of remains, because that was my main role there. And now today, as I think back to all the wisdom that my dad has given me over the years and everything that I do, that's one of the reasons why I'm the executive director and founder of the Massachusetts Veterans Chamber of Commerce, because he believed in paying it forward. He believed that, if you have a skill that somebody else does not have, you need to stand up and make sure that you take care of others. One of the things as I walk through the path, not only as a caregiver, but also as a veteran advocate, it's bring other people through the door with me. If I'm going to get my foot in that door, and trust me, if I want to get in that door, my foot's going to get there. I not only reach back and grab somebody, but I walk them through with me, because I find that sometimes it's easier if we have somebody to help guide us. You don't necessarily need somebody to tell you what to do or how to do it, but sometimes you need that helping hand. And that is where my dad comes in. That is the part of me that is also my dad. And because my father didn't just give me advice, he gave me the blueprint for subservient leadership, which is quiet, steady, and purposeful. And for me, that's the legacy that I carry forward every single day, and will continue to carry that forward. Dad, I salute you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Amazing, amazing. Can I ask you, is your father still with us?
No, Dad passed away last year. And it was when he got sick. my mom died in 2017, and my dad said, Lisa, I want you to start coming to appointments with me. So I started going to appointments. And that's really when I learned that I was a caregiver. So if you help somebody even with medicine, you are actually a caregiver, and you should acknowledge being a caregiver. I am an Elizabeth Dole Fellow, and it was because of my dad that I was able to become Elizabeth Dole Fellow and learn more about caregiving.
Wow.
And that is such a big part of what we have for us as veterans, because the Elizabeth Dole Foundation is all about veteran caregivers.
Beautiful. I know about the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, didn't realize it was really about caregiving, and also a reminder of the amazing resources and benefits that you can get through the Department of Veteran Affairs. You can be paid as a caregiver depending on the level of support and care that's needed. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. Larissa, are you ready to just show some love and salute your father? All righty, here we go.
Thank you so much again. Well, I believe my I guess topic is how his service shaped my leadership and decision to serve. So kind of thinking back, just brought so many memories back and so forth. So my father's military service deeply shaped my leadership and my decision to serve, because it gave me a passion for breaking cycles in my family. Cycles of silence, lack of knowledge, unspoken mental health struggles, and the invisibility of those who fall through the cracks. At just 18 years old, my dad raised his hand and volunteered to serve, not because he had to, but because he was proud to follow in his own father's footsteps. He was quickly deployed to Vietnam, where he witnessed the unimaginable at young age. Like so many others, he returned home for more, to a country that just didn't understand how to support its veterans. Men who were physically present, but emotionally wounded and silently carrying burdens too heavy to name. And no one, not anybody in his unit, his chain of command, not even his family or friends, recognized the weight he was carrying until many years later, just like myself. He wasn't okay, but he kept showing up. He showed up for me at all my milestones with quiet strength and love, despite the pain he was hiding. And so I reflect now, just realizing that he was there for me during my high school, my dance team, and my competitions, just for every milestone that I had. And he was one of my biggest cheerleaders. And now, as an adult with a family of my own, I see the depth in that sacrifice more clearly than ever. His life taught me the meaning of true resilience, and his struggles inspired me to redefine what legacy means for my own family. I've made it my mission to be strong, brave, intelligent, and above all, compassionate. I want him to be proud to know that his sacrifices weren't in vain, and that his story lives on through everything that I do. We've all had moments where quitting seemed easier, where the struggle felt too hard, too heavy, but real growth doesn't come from shortcuts. It comes from enduring, healing, and transforming that pain into purpose. My father lost his battle with PTSD at just 48 years old. I will always grieve that he fell through the cracks, because I truly believe that if he had the right support, the right resources, and people to walk beside him, he'd be here today advocating right alongside me. And when I remember those sacrifices and what he went through, it definitely drives me to do and try everything. I can't say that I truly, have given it my best effort unless I try something that I'm not comfortable, that I'm out of my comfort zone, because I owe it to him. I owe it to him to ensure that he was just such a proud man and father. He always told me as well that always own something in your name that you're proud of. And I take that to heart. And when I founded the circle, my nonprofit Circle of Arms, I definitely had him in mind, even up to the name Circle of Arms, because that's exactly what we need. And there's some veterans out there, retirees, that are living in silence and in pain, but all they do need is that circle of support. And and I'm proud of the nonprofit, the nonprofit that I started, and where it's going and how it's been going for the last 5 years. We have definitely some really great programs. One of the main programs that we offer is our COA Peers program, where we transport door through door veterans, their families members, to sedative appointments. So anything for preventative health care. So like for colonoscopies or cataract surgeries, anything where they're going to be sedated. And we also offer a peer to stay with them. We also know that there's a lot of older veterans that do not have the family support, nor do they want to be bothered or bother their children. And sometimes caregivers maybe need a break as well. So we step in and we help, and we take them to their appointments, stay there with them, and then take them back home. And I can let you know that this is a big gap that we're filling right now. And us being not tied, but partnered with the VA helps as well. So now I carry the torch he couldn't carry anymore, and I will carry it for as long as I have breath until I pass it on to one of my children. So thank you, Dad. I salute you. Sorry if I went over.
Wow. Well, what a way for, his legacy not only to come to life, but to continue to be thriving and to be serving the next, generation, of veterans, regardless of age. What an amazing gap. Olivia, how are you? Are you ready to salute your dad?
I am well, thank you. So my father, he really shaped my decision to join the Army when I was 4 years old. So I knew at a very young age that I was going to join the Army. So I am the oldest of 3 girls for him, and I'm daddy's little girl. And for those that may have not met me, I talk about this often, but I am first generation Korean American. And so I grew up with having culture in my home. And with that, our house was very dominant with the upbringing of value and culture of my Korean heritage. And so there are some stereotypes that kind of go with that, right? And with that, it's education is very important. Family comes first. And oftentimes, my dad wanted to make sure, in that vein of family and education, that he wanted to make sure that I was following in that footstep. And my parents never forced the military on me. I think it's something that my dad was excited that I wanted to do, but there was something that my father was very, very adamant. He shaped my leadership in the following, where, because my father was enlisted, he was a combat engineer and he served for 12 years. And for him, he was very adamant that, Olivia, you are not going to enlist in the Army. You will become an officer. And so at the age of 4, I knew that I was going to become an officer. I was going to go in the Army, but I couldn't tell you what that really meant. I had no idea what that meant. I just knew that that's what my dad said, and that's what I was going to do. What exactly I was going to do in the Army, how long I was going to stay in the Army, I really had no clue. But I just knew that service was something that I wanted to do because that's what my dad did. And I can remember clearly, nights of shining boots with him. This is, for those that are old enough to remember, the Army had black boots, taking Brasso and shining his medals and things like that. And because I learned those things at an early age, when I showed up to Army ROTC in college, I was probably one of the few cadets that actually had their uniform squared away. And so just like little things like that my dad has impressed upon me throughout my growing up. And what that translated to, by the time I commissioned and showed up to my first unit, that my dad's advice to me was, always take care of your soldiers. If you put your soldiers first, they will go so much farther for you. They know what your rank is. They clearly see that. They know that you're the officer. But what they need to know is that they can trust you and that you have their best interest at heart. And so we would have these long discussions as when I was a young lieutenant about what that really meant. What did it mean about taking care of soldiers first? You know, he would share and reflect with me the stories of when he was in service about the bad leaders that he had and the good leaders and what made the difference between the two. And those are the stories that I carry forward throughout my time in leadership, whether that was as a platoon leader or as a troop commander, or even as, you know, team leaders in small positions throughout my career when I was on staff. And those words have always guided me, regardless of the job that I did. Put your soldiers first. And it's very true to what I was taught, right? Leaders eat last. And I think that is such an important piece of leadership that my father gave me that has really held true in my 20 years. And I've taken that to heart even beyond my uniform. And so my dad has really been a key person throughout my life in terms of shaping me, molding me, and helping me. So much so that, you know, I can lean up back on him throughout my time and say, hey, Dad, I've got this NCO in my chain of command right now, or within my ranks that's saying this, that's doing this, and it just doesn't sit right. And he would say, yeah, that's not the way it should be. You know, this is probably how you should work with that NCO, or maybe you should counter back with that NCO this way. And so, you know, his invaluable guidance to me, even from afar, whether it was through phone calls or text, has been so important in my upbringing throughout my career. And so, you know, while I'll always be daddy's little girl, I love the fact that I've been able to share that piece with my father. And the unique part that I hold with my dad is that while I didn't get to serve with him in uniform together, we did serve together. I deployed 3 times to Iraq. My father deployed as well 2 of my 3 times. He worked with KBR and he was a contractor out there. So we actually, the first time he deployed, we were not on the same FOB, but the second time when I was a troop commander, we were actually on the same FOB. So it was actually a very unique experience that I got to have with my own dad, being in a war zone on the other side of the world, and then being on the same, you know, operating base with my dad. So that was something really cool that I got to share. And I didn't really tell people. And so it's just interesting when other leaders would see me talk to this guy, they're like, who the hell are you talking to? And I was like, that's my dad. And they thought I was like, oh, is that your like FOB dad? I'm like, no, that's like my legit real dad, like my biological dad. So, you know, just, you know, the cool little things that I've been able to, you know, share with my dad, and the stories that him and I get to now share with my kids. So, and that I just, you know, I look back, I get to laugh. And the really cool thing is I did salute my father when I commissioned back in 2001. So I am daddy's girl through and through.
Amazing. I mean, all of your stories are just unbelievably inspiring, you know, and you know, just to hear the impact of your dad, love it, and the fact you got to serve with him. Man, I am super jealous. You know, I'd love to have my dad be at the same base I was at.
No, it was awesome just to be able to like come back and be able to experience and share in the same understanding of what combat really means. While he didn't, you know, wear the uniform at the same time, he understood what I was going through. And so when I talk about, you know, I'm a mental health advocate. So when I talk about mental health, when I talk about PTSD, when I talk about my nightmares, he gets it. It isn't a far off topic. He understands that because he wore the uniform, and he also understands from the context of I've seen that over there.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you so much. What an amazing salute, each and every one of you. Rochelle, are you ready to salute your dad?
I am. So the theme that I selected was a moment or value learned from my father. So my father, Fred the King, was more than just my dad. And when I say the King, that is the name he gave. His middle name is Douglas, but he said he was Fred the King. All right. So as a young girl hearing this, and he taught me how to pretty much take care of myself. I am the oldest of 4, and so I was in charge. And he would teach me how to change a tire, fix a doorknob, making sure that the grass was cut, clean out the refrigerator, make the beds. And I really thought he wants a boy. He doesn't want a girl. So he was really my first teacher. And looking back on that, and he was my quiet protector. When I joined the military, without him knowing that I was going to join, I just came back with signed papers. Anytime I had a TDY and had to be reassigned, guess who would fly out to the base and help me drive? My dad. So he had this quiet protection, and he had this strength, he had this integrity, and he had the connection. And he showed me what connection really looked like. If you ever had met him, you would remember him. He didn't just demand attention, he earned respect. He knew everyone, y'all, and everyone knew him, but not in that surface level that sometimes we get nowadays, like just being kind, nice, kind way. He remembered people's names. He asked about their family. He showed up when it mattered. And we, and I say we, the family, didn't quite understand why he would be doing all this. But one of the most powerful lessons that I learned from my dad happened when I was about 13 years old. And we were in the grocery store, and I remember he stopped to talk to everybody. And I was like, why is he talking to everybody? I'm ready to go home. And I mean everybody, y'all, from the cashier to the produce people to the older gentleman that was sweeping near the door. And I remember being so impatient, like, come on, Dad, can we go now? But I never forget what he said. He said, Rochelle, never be too important to speak to people. You treat the CEO and the janitor the same way, with kindness and respect. You never know who someone is or what they're going through. And that moment hit differently for me. And now in all these years, I see how much that has shaped me as a woman. When he came to my retirement, I didn't know if he was going to actually make it because he was not in good health. And he showed up and he walked to the stage and he gave this outstanding speech on how proud he was of me. That was the first time I'd ever heard that, like out loud, because he was a strong man, a man from North Carolina, one of 14 children. So he was always hard on us, but he meant every word he said. And I was so happy that he had said that out loud and gave me my flowers, because I knew that he had taught me all of these different things about how to lead, to love, and to leave a legacy. That's why I don't just take clients, I build community. It's why I lead with love. It's why my brand is rooted in real connection. My father didn't have to give these long lectures, although he at times did, because he was a deacon. His life was a lesson. He taught me that your name carries weight, that how you treat people is your legacy, and that success without respect is just empty. So Fred the King was a man of the people. Because of him, I know how to walk into a room and see everyone. Because of him, I understand the power of presence, humility, and the heart-led leadership. Even now, I feel his voice guiding me. I hear him in the way I love my family and the way that I'm on stages and I strategize in the rooms. He passed away in just a few months after I retired. in October 2021. And now I see that I have been given the torch, helping to lead us and move us forward. And it is such a beautiful thing when we can kind of see all the things that our fathers have done for us, even though at times I felt like he was always in my chili. He was always giving me a hard time. It was all for the betterment of not only myself, but my family. My husband and him had an amazing relationship. They got along very well. I was like, oh my goodness. And so much so that they would be talking without me on a lot of things. And I'm like, okay. But it was just the way. And so I salute you, Dad.
Just amazing. Walk slowly through the crowd is one of the concepts that I heard, and so important because in this rush world, right? And people thinking they're important. I've got to get to wherever, and whoever's in my way is not important. That is, I can see that in you. I can see how, I watch how you light up a room. That's one of the things I've admired about you from afar. So good to hear the backstory of that. So the topic that I selected to celebrate Colonel, let me put the video on. Colonel Arthur Roy Gardner is his hat. The hat you see in the picture, I still have it. It was one of the things I wanted to keep. And the reason I wanted to keep it is because most of my life, because my father was one of the first Black Army Corps of Engineer officers, he was always gone. He was deployed, he was building a bridge, he went to Vietnam 3 times. And so as I would tell people, I didn't even know his favorite color until I was a senior in high school. And this picture is at our first duty station, which really shaped kind of a lot of who I am and why I'm the way I am. And I got the opportunity to tell this story when I was on Rochelle's podcast. And that is, my father, when he arrived, my mother and him met in college, met and married in college. And so by the time he went to his first duty station, I was already 4 or 5 years old. And we arrived in Germany, and we call it the quads, right? Where there's a high-rise building on all 4 corners. There's street that comes in, and there's a playground in the middle. And I've always been very social and outgoing, so I'm walking around, running around. Hi, I'm Michelle. Hi, I'm Michelle, and I'm introducing myself to everybody on the playground, the monkey bars, the swings, the seesaw. I can see this in my mind even to this day. And then all of a sudden, Susie's mom, that wasn't her real name, but that's the name I'm gonna call her, yelled from the top floor of the high rise, because the higher ranking you were, the higher you stayed up on the floor. And my dad was a 2nd lieutenant, so we were on the main floor, and they were unpacking because we'd recently moved in. And she said, everybody come in for cookies and milk. And so all the kids from the playground ran into the stairwell, and they went up 4 flights of stairs. And, I knew I shouldn't be following them because, my mother didn't know them, but I wanted to go and get cookies and milk. I wanted to belong. And so I followed everybody up the stairs, but I took my time. And I wanted to be the last one in case I needed to, my mother thought I had a second thought I shouldn't be there. But when I got to the top of the stairs and the kids ran into the house, Susie's mom was standing there, and she put up her hand and she said, "Oh no, you can't come in. You have to go home for cookies and milk." It was the first time that I realized I was different. Right. And so I ran down the stairs, crying, upset, and ran across the playground into the house. And my mom said, what are you crying about? Because I was hysterical. I said, they won't let me have cookies and milk. And she said, oh dear, I'll make you some cookies and pour you some milk. And I said, what's wrong with me? And she said, there's nothing wrong with you. And so, at a very early age, I learned to love myself. I understand what it's like to be left out. I understand what it's like to be shut out. And so when I went to Tuskegee to join the military, and here's my dad commissioning me, he was so proud because I joined the Air Force because I knew the Army. I saw all the dirt from the Army Corps of Engineers coming in. I said, this glamour girl is not going Army. So I went Air Force. And one of the things he said to me, in addition to the things I already mentioned about leave deep footprints everywhere you go, because people should know that you were there. He forged his way to 06 as the only Black officer. For most of my formative years, he was the only Black officer on a post. So, there were Blacks in the Army Corps of Engineers, but they weren't officers. And then he would say, excellence is not who we are, but it is who we are, but not what we do. And, the thing that people always ask me about, well, how was it to be, the only, the first Black female to make colonel in my specialty, my Air Force specialty, and all of these things, how did it feel to be the only one? Well, he, because of his journey, said excellence is genderless and excellence is colorblind. It doesn't matter if you're excellent, after a while, people will forget that you're different. And the last thing is, he told me, is when I came in the military, he said, find a good NCO and hold on, senior NCO, and hold on to their coattail. And I will tell you, Chief Ed Moran, I've not been able to find him since, I entered the Air Force. But I worked for Chief Moran the first 3 years I was in the Air Force. I was the chief's lieutenant. That's the lieutenant's chief. He taught me how to be technically competent. He taught me how to, read the tech manual, how to lead enlisted, how to be respected, and to not be too good to do anything. And I will tell you that, just that guidance my father told me of, don't go in there thinking you went to college, you're the officer, you're in charge. Listen to the senior NCO because they've been around a while. And if you respect them, they will respect you. And I will tell you that has paid big, big dividends. Everywhere I've been, I've always done the things that my troops do, not because I want to do them every day, not because I need to do them every day, but because when I'm advocating for them, when I have to hear their challenges, I can put myself back in that place and say, I know what it's like. Yes, they need that resource. Yes, I need to, give them grace. So, Dad, I just want to thank you. The biggest thing you taught me is history. Leave deep footprints. They should know that you were there. And what he meant by that is people can come after you, but for that period of time that you were there, your imprints are history and they cannot be erased. So I salute you, Dad. And I love you so much. We lost him 3 weeks before we got married. And if that had not happened, I probably wouldn't be GI. But that sealed I wanted to continue his legacy by keeping the last name Gardner. And so that's how I became GI. So thank you. Love you, Dad. Love you, Mom. Also, if you're watching. So let's talk. Let's talk, my sisters in service. We're here to salute our dads. Tell me, what does the legacy of the style of leadership he showed you, what does that look like? So when you're the leader you are today, how you lead, how does the legacy of his leadership show up in the way that you lead today? Who wants to go first? You can just jump in.
I can start. I think something that I sometimes share, but I'm not always open about. So I'm biracial. My mother is Korean and my dad is half Korean and half English, and he was adopted. And so my dad has, he's got his own scars through his childhood, right? And I'm a product of the 80s, and, that was an assimilation culture. And, things that are popular now, right? Everybody loves Korean food and everyone's enamored with the culture and everybody loves K-drama. But when I was a child, that wasn't the case, right? My culture was very suppressed. I was told that like the things that I ate, everything about my culture and the food was gross. So it's a drastic turnaround, and I love it that it's different. But with that being said, the thing that my dad impressed upon me growing up, and this is something that carried into leadership, is that you get to where you are because you put in the work, not because you're a woman, not because you're a minority, not because you're short. Like all of those adjectives do not define you. You get to where you are, you get the awards or the accolades or all of those things because you put the time in, you put the hard work in. And so, that's something that has really stuck with me. And then on the flip side of that conversation, my dad said, you need to make sure that you do, in the essence of taking care of your soldiers, put in those awards. Make sure that you do recognize the service members that you are entrusted to lead, that when they are doing something good, that you take the time out to honor them and write up the impact boards, put in the awards for them, give them the time off, do the things that you would want your leaders to do for you, you must do for them.
Awesome. Who wants to go next? I mean, it's all about leadership, right? Everything rises and falls on leadership. That's what John Maxwell says, and I truly believe that.
I think I'll take a shot at it too. One of the things that I admired about him that I do for myself is make a decision. And, when you're younger, you may want to just marinate in it, or you're procrastinating, you're thinking it's going to go away, and it just kind of gets worse and worse over time. And the answer, what the decision is, but for whatever reason, something is holding you back. So, he would ask me questions, and, I would just kind of stare at him sometimes during the headlights. And he's just like, listen, life is hard. Okay. And there will be times when you just need to make a decision. So when I went into the military, and I found that was so true, especially when you get into the higher leadership roles, that yes, make a well-informed decision. However.com, you can't just be, just kind of floundering around and just trying to think about like all the pros, the cons, and all the in-betweens, as the situation is just getting, bigger and bigger and bigger. So, I appreciate him for that, because now I can make a decision in a minute. And like for business, as a businesswoman now, there are decisions that need to be made. And so I'm quick, because I know if I don't, I'll just sit on it, and it'll, make everything else kind of crazy. So, and the other thing I think too is accountability. So we lived in a very strict home. So, back in that day, there were spankings. Okay. There was, a lot of that was happening. And, even if you didn't do something wrong, everyone would get a spanking. Okay. And it was just that way. Now, if it's right or wrong, indifferent, whatever, right? It was what was going on. But I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot. Number one, to be trustworthy. Like when something is happening, instead of waiting till the last minute to tell, fess up to it and say, hey, this is what happened. This is what I did. I didn't know it was going to, turn out this way, but, there are consequences to everything that we do. And then, like truly, as you're moving forward in your life, teaching our son what accountability looks like is different. Okay, there's no spankings going on. Okay, there's a lot of talking. Okay, so, but my dad used to talk him down too, because when you get older and wiser, that's what usually happens. And so you kind of learn different ways to get at that philosophy, that principle that they teach us. But I really truly think that making decisions and being accountable are some of the things that I appreciated and did very well when I was in service.
Anyone else want to take a stab at that before we move to the next question?
I think I'll take a stab at this one, because for me, my dad was always the kind of person who did not believe in rank. Now, he was a chief master sergeant, so I guess he really didn't have to believe in rank. He was that for a lot of years. But he was so humble with everything that he did. And when he really wanted to focus on something, it was important that you understood that you were standing on somebody's shoulders. There was somebody who came before you. You were not the first. It didn't matter what it was. There was always somebody who helped you get to where you are at. And for me, I think that was part of it, because I had some really bad bosses in the military and some really great bosses in the military. And my dad used to say, Lisa, you never have to respect the person, but you better respect the position. I don't care what their rank is. I don't care what their name is. But if you don't respect that position, you fail yourself. And I think for me that helped, especially as I started my own business and then decided to help veterans with their businesses. One of the things was we are all the same. We all put our pants on it the same way. If you wear a dress, you put your dress on the same way that somebody else is going to put a dress on. If we don't think about the person's rank or their position or their role, we just think of them as a person. That respect comes a whole lot easier. And I think that it also makes a big difference. My dad was real big on do not buy my dad anything with a logo, because he was not going to advertise for anybody. He was like, I'm not paying to advertise for people. It's like, but Dad, I really like that. No, I'm not paying to advertise for anybody. So I think the humility and the consistency that my dad was throughout my entire life, I think that really made a difference in my leadership style, which allowed me to say, okay, I can have the worst boss in the world. What they've done is they've taught me what I do not want to do.
Yep.
And gives me lots of lessons to share with other people. So I think that was probably the biggest legacy with leadership that my dad taught me and actually showed throughout my entire life.
Yeah. I think for me, my self-esteem, the leadership of myself, because when you're the only Black officer's family on a post, you learn to be extremely independent. You don't go next door for a cup of sugar because nobody's opening the door. And I mean, that was how it was. So you learn to, if you don't have something, you learn to be resourceful and figure it out, or you just wait until you can go and get it for yourself. I think, he taught me that just because I was different didn't mean it was bad. And so I learned to love myself very early, because the Blacks didn't like me because I was an officer's kid. You think you're better. Your dad makes more money than my dad. The whites didn't like me because I was Black. And so here I was in this no man's land. So when people see this confidence and they think it's arrogant. No, this is survival. I don't really care what you think of me. I mean, and that is not surface, just that it started at 5 years old when that lady closed the door in my face. So imagine all through high school, I was learning I tried, being everybody's friend, letting them mistreat me. And my dad was like, really? Like, really? People either going to like you or they don't, Michelle. The ones who like you, good. The ones who don't, they've got the problem. You don't, because your heart is good and you're trying to do the right thing. So I really think that sense of self-confidence, the sense of self-love, priceless, just absolutely priceless. And not that you're better than anyone, but you're pretty all right. It's kind of how he put it. Doesn't mean you're above anybody or anybody, anybody is above you or nobody's above you. You just have to be the best you, and that's okay. And you don't have to apologize. You don't have to, buy friendship. I used to let people take my coats, my lunch, all kind of craziness. And I finally just realized, love me or leave me. And he always, told me I was special. My parents always just made my brother and I feel like we could do anything, and exposed us and prepared us to do anything. And so for that, I am so thankful. We come from a very high achieving family. My brother was in SCS at 35. So it is like, when it's excellence, it's what you do, that, and not what you do, but who you are. That's real talk. Like, yeah. So I don't know, Larissa, do you want to jump in, or we'll move to the next?
I'll just say something briefly that I think that what my dad instilled in me is, showing up, and most importantly, showing up for your family. Because no matter what we do in this life and every accomplishment that we achieve, we are granted multiple different types of families, but one family that is ours. And, showing up for them mostly because they are there supporting you when you are gone, when you are working overtime, or you are, deployed, or you are just doing everything that you want to do. And so showing up for them and making your family a priority should be just as important.
So, so true. Family, and we have military family, we have adopted, extended family in the military, as well as our own family. And I will tell you, there were times when, I know I've been in the military, that people really, really showed up for me. And Ellsworth, that's why it's a very special place in my heart, is one of those places, Rochelle. I had my first child there, and, the community was just amazing during that period of time, because my husband was deployed while I was pregnant and then came home for the birth and then was gone again. So, have a special place in my heart for Ellsworth extended family. Let me ask, when we think about women in the military, what would you say, from our stories, you'd want other women considering coming in the military? Because now, I have children. A lot of us have children, and they're not interested in coming in the military. They're like, What would you say to them? The next generation, our children, as far as joining or not to join, or, hey, would you come in differently? Would you do anything different as far as the military is concerned?
I wouldn't do anything different, but I always encourage people to join the military. It's only 4 years out of the rest of your life, folks. That's it. Just 4 years. You can do anything for 4 years. If you want to stay longer, great. Yeah. When I joined, I was only going to join for 4 years, and I stayed for 20. Here's the thing, and this is what I tell people. you will get more benefits out of joining the military and more lessons out of the joining the military than you will any other job in America or overseas. And I think for me, because I didn't plan on joining, it just happened. I think that it's a job, and just think of it like a job and do it for 4 years. You get school paid for. You can do guard, reserve, active duty. Your school will be paid for. The veteran benefits outside of it are phenomenal. Are you going to have to deal with a bunch of idiots? Yes, but you have to deal with that at any job that you do.
Yeah.
You know, we realize as women, we know, and I almost can guarantee everybody in this room knows somebody who was sexually assaulted in the military, kind of thing. And the reality is, if you think about it, it happens everywhere, but the military's gotten a lot better since I retired back in 2006, 18 years ago. Protect yourself, but be aware, be alert. But think of the benefit of joining the military, not just the camaraderie, which does occur. Most people don't think that camaraderie occurs anymore, or they think it only occurs when you go to combat. I never went to combat, and I can assure you I feel camaraderie with a lot of my brothers and sisters in the military. So I think everybody should join, and especially women, because let me tell you, that 4 years will make a difference in your life. That is a fact.
I do agree, but I'm going to I agree that everybody should have some military time. Anybody else what would you tell the next generation of?
Well, I would counter to Lisa only because of, not everybody's equipped to go into the military. And, you get people in there, and especially from the last role that I was in, we're looking at discharge, we're looking at, reassignments. We're looking at, making sure that this person is being tracked because they just don't want to be there. Okay. So if there is any inclination that, you're just doing it out of because I went in not even asking my parents or anything like that, but I had an idea because I grew up in it. My dad was in the military, right? But if you don't have any source of, what military is, it's a system. It's a system. And if you don't understand the system and how it operates, you get frustrated. And then that's kind of how things happen. So if a person goes into the military, or if they're looking to go into the military, I would highly recommend that they would get a support system. They need to have several types of mentors, several types of sponsors, several types of collaborators, because you can get into there and you may think it's the idea of it being one way. And when it doesn't turn out to be that way, then your experience as a whole is not good.
Yeah.
So, sometimes, I believe in the discipline. I believe in the structure. I believe in, the empowerment of military service. But again, it ain't for everybody. It's not.
Yeah.
I have to agree. So here's some statistics, right? So those that have followed my journey, my last job in the United States Army was U.S. Army Soldier for Life, which was in the business of transitioning service members. So we talk about the 1%. What does that mean? It's actually 0.45% of today's U.S. population of adults actively serve in any 1/6 of the U.S. branches of service. So we're not even talking a full percent, but let's make math easy because I'm not that Asian that does math well. So let's round that up and make it 1%. So then when you look at the ages of 17 to 24, which is the recruiting age that we're looking at, majority of those, we're looking at 70% are not even qualified to join the military. They are disqualified based on medical reasons. They are not qualified because of a plethora of reasons. Obesity is an issue. It is a pandemic that is hitting our country hard. And then going to the core of the other issues, 50% of America doesn't understand what the military is, what we do. They're understanding the military is what they see on TV or the news. And then 50% of the military bases are in the middle of nowhere America, right? They're not in the urban populations. And where do we recruit majority of of those that come into service? The ones that are kind of near the military branch, the bases, right? Which is kind of in the southern states, because that's where the land is. So with that being said, what we're seeing is we are recruiting years and years, or just generations and generations of families that are continuously serving. So we are making a warrior class, if you will, right? The same families are giving back to our nation, and we've got to change that. And so directly to your question, would I want my kids to serve? And that is a hard question for me to answer. And also somebody who is proud of the work that I've done at U.S. Army Soldier for Life. And much like Lisa, I am a huge advocate of, I believe like you, that the military is a great place for many people. It is a great place to get your skills going. My dad talks about that. He learned a lot of skills because he went to the military, right? It is a great place to get education. The U.S. Army is the #1 scholarship producing entity in America. You want a way to get to college? Join the United States Army. So from those reasons alone, and then, oh, by the way, you join a tribe, right? Veteran is not given, it is earned. And then you come out on the backside with this huge family, right? That veteran family. So there's so much, like Lisa mentioned, the plus side of being a veteran, raising your right hand. But going back to that question, as a parent, would I want my kids to serve? And that is a hard question that I wrestle with because of, let's be honest, some of the crap that I dealt with as a woman, right? The sexual harassment, the physical assault that I endured by my own platoon sergeant, right? That got swept underneath the rug. All of those things, mental health, the disability, right? I look normal, but I am disabled from so many of my injuries, right? So do I want my kids to go through that? And then at the same token, my dad served, I served. So we're 2 generations, and there's a part of me that wants my kids to serve because it would be that 3rd generation. So just looking at my own 2 kids, I'm like, I look at my daughter and I'm like, do you have the affinity or the personality? Like, Rochelle talks about, is she a good fit? She's just the sweetest little girl and she has a heart on her sleeve. I just don't think that she has the type of personality that would do well in the military. And just the mama bear comes out and says, maybe not for you. For my son, he is a carbon copy of mama, right? I'm like, maybe the military is for you. Maybe you go to West Point like your daddy, right? Become the 3rd generation. So that question is hard as I sit here, someone who loved what she did, who believes in the value of a veteran, who believes that service is important. But then when you talk to the mom in me, I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
That is so hard.
Yeah. I definitely agree with what all the ladies said. But I also think that what I would give as far as advice is for our young adults to heal from childhood trauma, heal in any way in capacity, because mental health is it's a big space. And we go into certain back when our fathers served, and when some of us served, there was a lot of different reasons why we went, and I know we shared that. But a lot of the focus is also for the groups, or the socioeconomic groups, where they need to have money for school, they want to travel, they want to get out of small town America to see the world. And I definitely think that a lot of the young adults are thinking, hey, this is going to be great. But again, not dealing with what they have gone through or what they dealt through in their childhood or growing up. And so I definitely think that's an important factor to consider. And what I would advise my kids, again, I'm like Olivia, I'm not sure, none of my kids have seen wanting to serve or be and follow in mom's footsteps or dad's footsteps. So I think that would just be the biggest advice, is to heal. And like Rochelle said, find that support system, find that through veterans, us, as mentors, and also just, family and friends that have served, so that, there is a checklist to ensure before they go in, they are physically and mentally able to.
Yeah, I just kind of want to say, I think we, have to look at service in a different way. First of all, if I'd have known about the reserves, I'd have gone reserves. I didn't know. Even if I started active duty and then went reserves, where I could have gotten out, you know, gone the corporate track and then jumped back and forth between, didn't even know that was an option. I think that's a great opportunity. You also have civilian service, right? So you still get to be there, but you're there in support in a different way. And sometimes you even get to deploy. And then I got the chance to be the commander, bless you, of the Army Air Force Exchange Service. AFIS serves anywhere our troops serve. And so, that's another way to serve as a civilian and still, provide the troops with, I call it a little bit of home away from home. But, you don't get the veteran, status, and you don't get the, all the veteran benefits. But if you truly want to serve and get some of that camaraderie, get in that ecosystem of the military, you still can in serving, a different way. But I am like Lisa. I believe everybody. I was stationed in Turkey for 2 years. Everybody in Turkey has to do 2 years, and I believe that won't hurt you. It gives them respect for the nation and respect for service and discipline. And even if we have a core of people, Rochelle, that we call our special corps. And everybody on this panel has somebody in mind. And immediately, it was an immediate visual, and you know what I'm talking. I'm sorry. Y'all
I'm
don't
just
know.
saying, these codes that we use, because we know, like, I'm just like, there were days when I was just like, I wanted to put a sticker on some of these individuals and be like, you got to go back home. Like this one right here is not going to make it. It's not
reject, return to sender.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
But
yes.
You know what? You made a point when you were talking about like your kids and the kids. Like I was sharing, my dad was one of 14. There are a lot of aunts, uncles, cousins, and so forth. There was only 2 of us out of the, the kids, if you will, the first cousins, second cousins on that went into the military. Well, I'll take that back. 3. So where does that come from? And you're right. The world has changed significantly, where people's mental capacities, just trying to deal with day-to-day living. And so maybe that was kind of like an aha moment for me when Larissa was just sharing that, because I was like, our son is not even thinking about it. So just saying.
Well, as we begin to close out, well, first of all, I have to say this has been awesome, just hearing everybody's stories, everybody's insights. I kind of want you to think about, what's one sentence, one thing you would say to your father. And I think, Olivia, you might be the only one where your father is still alive, still with us. So I'd like to start with you. But if you could tell your father one thing, what would you say? And then we're going to go around, and then we're going to close out this amazing session.
I'm just grateful that we've been able to share this journey, and not just as father and daughter, but as Army veterans. And I think, what is perfect was the job that I had in the Army. And I think it matches for anybody who's an Army veteran, but really for both of us. Once a soldier, always a soldier for life.
Wonderful. Larissa.
Wow. If I could tell my father something right now, I would just say that the cycle is broken. The cycle is broken for your family. Rest easy, and I've got the watch.
Wow, beautiful. Oh my God, just beautiful. Lisa.
I knew you were going to make me go after her. Love you, Larissa. No, I was blessed enough last year that Dad had 4 months. So when he went into hospice, I was able to tell him everything. And the most important thing I did tell him was thank you for being my dad. And I would say it again today.
Wow. Wow. Rochelle. Beautiful.
I think I would tell him thank you for instilling strength. After he passed away, my mom, she reimagined her life.
Wow.
And I was able to help her through that journey. Even though, you know, some family members didn't have it in them, I know why they did not have it in them. You know, transitioning is a hard thing for people to understand. But once you understand and know that all that he gave me was necessary for my mom and the way that she is living, and she is, you know, through her grief, she is still getting up every day and doing things. And so I just want to tell him that he was like a bigger influence on my life than he thought I might have thought of him. He definitely created a blueprint that I am following, and I absolutely love him for that. And I absolutely missed him because he tragically passed away, and so I didn't get to say goodbyes to him. So
yeah. I mean, just wow. I would say thank you for legacy. I mean, my father's decision to serve in one generation, I was talking to my son about this, catapulted our family into middle class. One generation. My mother's mother went to the 3rd grade. My father's mother, she had a master's degree because she was a teacher, but my grandfather only went to the 6th grade. On my mother's side, you know, he only went to the 8th grade. And in one generation, both my mother and father had master's degrees and took our family to a whole nother level, and just instilled excellence and opportunity and resilience that we could get through anything. And I'm just thankful for that legacy. So with that, ladies, that's going to be a wrap on our stories. But we can't leave without you telling who you are, where people can follow you, where they can find you, you know, what you're about, what you're up to, because we already got some filmmakers trying to follow us, y'all. So come on now. They're saying they want to do a one-on-one, talk to y'all about some filming opportunities. So don't be shy. Let's start with the Slay Queen, and then we're going to go around the horn.
Okay. I am the CEO and founder of Slay to Success. I advise and empower women professionals to step up into their most authentic personal brand. In other words, I help women to feel good, look good, and do good in all different types of ways. Now, my power is being creative. All right. I write books, publications, all the things. I have talk shows. I help women get dressed. I do a number of different things because the one main thing that I want a woman to do is own their voice and own their space. And so that is the energy that I give off every single day. You can find me on LinkedIn every day. And I say that because it's important that we use these platforms for good. And if we have it in us to express and advocate for things that are going to positively impact this world, we should all be doing that. And so you see me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on IG. I'm not as active on IG as I am on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. That's all my family and my friends. I have a YouTube channel, Slate to Success, that you can follow all the shows on there. They're loaded on that. And where else? And my website, www.slaytosuccess.com.
Wonderful. Thank you
Thank you
so much for being here. Who's going next? Olivia?
Thank you again for the opportunity to be here with you, lovely ladies, and to be able to share the story. I am active on LinkedIn as well. You can find me there. I'm actually on Instagram. It's probably where I'm the most active. It's _Olivia Nunn. I'm also on Facebook. I have a website, www.olivianunn.com. I am the CEO and founder of Olivia Nunn Communications. It is a consulting firm, everything with communications and event planning. And if you need someone to do voiceover work, modeling, I'm also a pageant queen. I am your gal. And breaking news, if you have a story because you are somebody that are rising from the bottom, I say that I am the storm. That is a motto, a mantra that I've always said. And that I believe that not only am I the storm, but I'm also the unbreakable storm through all of life challenges, just my mental health journey and everything else, the constant feeling like I'm falling to the bottom and just having to rise. If that resonates with you, if you feel that you've hit rock bottom in some way, some shape, have risen back to the top, let's chat. There is a podcast coming your way.
Did you mute?
Sorry about that. Who's next? I'm plugging in because it says I'm about to be out of battery.
So my name is Larissa Cirilo-Martinez, and I am the founder and CEO or executive director of Circle of Arms. We were established in 2019, and our mission is to promote mental health awareness through education, filling gaps, advocacy, and breaking stigma, primarily among veterans, women, and minority communities. And you can find me on LinkedIn, in Instagram. I'm not as active on Instagram, Facebook, and also I have a website, Circle of Arms, npo.org. And I just want to say thank you so much for just having this virtual webinar and this topic. And again, I may have imposter syndrome, but I definitely didn't feel like I was at the league of some of you ladies because y'all all are amazing. But again, I found my journey and my voice a little later in life, but I'm glad I did. And I plan to use my voice until I can't anymore. So
Amazing. And oh, by the way, one of my mantras is comparison is cancer. Don't get it.
I know.
We're glad that
Let's just say you are very awesome. And we are all equal in this room, no matter who we are.
Yes. So true. So true. Is it my turn?
No, you want to go before me?
No,
I think you should
go
go last.
Go ahead, Lisa.
So I'm Lisa Ducharme, the founder and executive director of the Massachusetts Veterans Chamber of Commerce. I am one of a few handful of veteran business experts, and I believe in making sure that we embrace our veteran identity. So like Slay, I'm also an author, 18 books, 2 more coming, but mine are all business related with the exception of the special one I did for my grandkids. I don't advertise them except for my becoming a veteran, because I want all of our veterans to really embrace their veteran identity. You can find me on LinkedIn and also, like the other ladies, Instagram, but I'm not as active as I should be. I'm going to eventually get there, just not there yet. Um, and you can find me at massbcc.org. And every Wednesday morning, it's from 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we host a free virtual morning mission coffee hour. You can come on and ask questions. And I also give a special checklist every week. It's unique through my vision, my lens, based on business conversations I have during the week. And I find one topic and I make sure that I create a checklist. And that sometimes that's the only reason people pop on. They don't have any questions. They just want the checklist.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Every once in a while I have one. And I took the whole year worth of checklist and made it into one of the books that I did. That's one of the books, is the whole year worth of the checklist.
Wow.
But like, as a veteran business expert, I think it's important that if you are in business, make sure that you utilize the resources. We have so many of them.
Absolutely. I want to say a special thanks to Lisa, who is my co-producer, who put the videos together. So, so appreciative of that. We have worked several projects together. And Lisa is one of them ride or die sisters. You can call her anytime. She gonna be there. She gonna show up, and she gonna show up like you asked her 5 months ago. I'm just saying that she's that kind of girl. I so appreciate you, and look forward to doing more with you. Michelle Gardner-Ince, aka GI, LinkedIn top voice for 2021. And since then, I have decided that I'm going to use that voice and that status to raise the visibility of women, veterans, veteran-owned businesses, women, veterans in leadership. I believe that women veterans are this nation's top secret weapon, underserved, underutilized, underemployed, but we are beasts. You want to get something done? Hire a woman veteran. You need a team led to break down a wall, do something impossible? Hire a woman veteran. And I always say, because if we can carry a gun, we can have babies, we can run our families, and we can run the troops, sailors, airmen, Marines, you better get a woman veteran on your team. I'm just saying. And the last thing, I have a dream. It's all about having an all-female veteran team win a $10 billion government contract, and the entire team is made up of women veteran businesses. So that's my dream. And so I'm passionate about helping women veterans, and a few good men, I always say, understand what it takes to be successful in business. And it's not just, it's art and science. And I think women, we have the art, we just don't know that we have it, in the way that we influence, the way that we serve and support our team members, also in the way that we build relationships. And so, that's my passion. You can catch me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, but not really. I live, breathe on LinkedIn. I'm obsessed with LinkedIn. 4:30 in the morning, I am thinking about LinkedIn or planning something for LinkedIn. So, I tell everybody LinkedIn is where business is done. There are more than 2 million government employees on LinkedIn. If you're looking for somebody to meet, they're on LinkedIn. So build your thought leadership there. I believe, no shame to people who want to get PhDs. Get on LinkedIn and develop your own thought leadership, and it is your PhD. So I want to thank you ladies for being here, for answering the call, and allowing us to just corporately all together celebrate our dads. What a great legacy you're continuing. Let this not be the first time. Can we make this an annual event? Maybe. What do you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I'd love to do it in person next time. Let's see.
Yes, and we have to find our Marine
Yes, and a Coastie.
and a Coastie and Space
and a
Force.
Space Force. I was going to say the same thing. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining in. Let's go and create the next legacy of service, whether it's in uniform or not, because we've got a great foundation that our dads laid for us. We'll see you later, and good night, and God bless.
Good night.
Good night.